and welcome to How to Deal When the Shit Gets Real podcast. I'm Marietta.
And I'm Connie. And today we are doing a breakdown of Christina's podcast episode, which was just released last Wednesday.
Yeah, and Christina had all the, she gave us, health issues. She just gave us so much information. I was kind of blown away because, going into it, we have a general idea. But when she actually started talking, I was like, holy crap, this girl.
Yeah. And, you don't really... Everybody's experience health-wise is always so different. You know what I mean? Like some people can have great providers. Like I love, and actually Tom loves my midwife. He was recommending my midwife to other people the other day. But like you could also have other doctors that's like, oh, well, you did nothing for me.
Yeah. No, and I'm with you.
Helpful.
And I'm with you. I loved my doctor too. He was wonderful. He was very understanding. It helped that his son, I think it was his son. Yeah, his son was in the Navy. So he had like a generalized experience of military life. He wasn't like, where's your husband all the time? He like understood that he was deployed.
Yeah, really. In general, like advocating for your like healthcare, it's like, yeah, that's important.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest points that I'm glad that she made, that you need to be your own advocate and ask questions. Because I know we talked about this on there and I forget sometimes too, like when you are in the doctor's office, you have the right to ask them whatever you want to ask them.
And you have the right to refuse treatment or ask for different treatment. Because when I was doing my glucose test when I was pregnant, I asked them because I kept on seeing online like, oh, you can ask them if you can drink orange juice instead if you don't want to take like that gross glucose drink. And I did ask them. I was like, hey, by chance, can I bring an orange juice instead? And they said, no, sorry.
Well, I mean, at least you asked, and
yeah, and I was like, fine. I'll do like whatever. Like I wasn't gonna put up a fight. If this is what it has to be done, it has to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is one of the worst parts. I hated that.
That's why I was asking. I was like, I've seen things for eating like 20 jelly beans, all this other stuff. I was like, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah, that would have been great.
I'll do anything.
I literally had a headache the entire day because it's like you're coming down from like, it's like a hangover almost. It's a sugar hangover.
Yep. Well, I was okay. I was like jittery, like almost like caffeine. But either way, I was like, I can't believe, either way, my doctor's office, I understand why they said no. And why I then end up having to do the 3-hour glucose test because they're always overcautious, which is great. Versus when she went to the ER and the OB that she saw when she was first pregnant before the miscarriage, that seemed really negligent.
Yeah, it did. I mean, good for her for always sticking up for herself. That was one thing I really liked about Christina. I mean, I liked her in general, but I liked how hard she advocated for herself and how she wasn't afraid to say no and how she wasn't afraid to be like, this is not right. You need to take care of me. Like when she needed the second ultrasound to make sure that the second pregnancy after she got rid of her ectopic was actually in there. She's like, no, I want to see it before you get rid of it to make sure what we're getting rid of. Like she was not budging. Yeah.
And I mean, I completely understand if I would have had a choice in my miscarriage, like that's what, I would want to see. And it actually made me feel like, oh yeah, like my miscarriage could have been worse because I mean, the ectopic pregnancy, basically now she can't have kids. Like that sucks.
Yeah. Well, it definitely lowers the chances even more because she lost a fallopian tube.
Yeah. And then with the other side not really working, okay, now you're okay, IVF it is.
Yeah. And
now she has 2 baby boys.
Yeah. And she did her research and she made sure she found an IVF doctor. So like we've talked about on previous episodes, you can over-research things, but there are different things. There are definitely things that when they're important, you should do all the research and find what you want.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now I'm like, how did people not have Google and have research at the tip of their fingertips? Because with now being a new mom, I'm like, how much spit up is too much spit up? What can I do to stop the spit up? How can I make him sleep longer? Like, it's like a random questions pop up. Is this normal? Like his eyebrow is like randomly really red. Like, why is that? Like, I Google so much. My mom was like, seriously? She's like, he's fine. And I'm like, oh, I know, but I like knowing things. Okay.
No. I Google all the time anyway. Like, and I Google when I write too. Like, what's another word for laugh? Because I can't write laugh for the 50th time. And I mean, I Google all sorts of things. Like, what were we were watching something last night. Oh, we were watching Bohemian Rhapsody, and like we randomly were like, oh yeah, when did he die? I'm like, okay, let's Google it. When did he die? It's kind of awesome. Whenever you have a question about something, you can just straight up look it up and get your answer right away.
Yep. I asked my mom, I was like, how did you raise kids without Google and without Target pickup? Because I love Target pickup. I'm like, oh yes, this is great. Target, come sponsor us. Just kidding.
That would be amazing. Target, you love us. I was just there today and I just bought some of Tabitha Brown's new release because I couldn't walk past it. But that's for another podcast.
That's Target, but with a newborn, I'm like, we need a ton of I need a bunch of nursery water. Okay, add 3 to my cart. What else do I need?
That's the problem. That's the dangerous part. What else do I need? That's the dangerous question.
Well, because but I feel ridiculous buying 3 jugs of water for $2 each and not being like, oh, do I need anything else? You know what I mean? It's like I'm already going. But yes, no, Target is dangerous.
Target is dangerous. And I'm sure 90% of our listeners would probably agree with us.
That's why when I went to go get to Containers, I did not go to Target. I went to Menards.
There you go.
Because I knew if I went to Target, it would not ever just be just Containers.
Kyle calls it the $100 store because you can never leave there without spending $100.
Yeah. And Costco's like the $200 store.
I don't go to Costco anymore, but I believe you.
Yes. But it's neither here nor there.
Right.
Anyway.
But yeah, Christina had a heck of a journey, and man, did she come out of it. I mean, autoimmune disease since she was 4, continued to have autoimmune disease, has an ectopic pregnancy, still gets pregnant. I mean, what a journey.
Yeah, and I can't imagine having an autoimmune disease. I'm like, this sounds horrible, And it's like, and I'm sure because this happens to me when I get a cold. It's like, you start thinking like, is it anything else, like anything worse?
Yeah,
and
course.
It's like that's her all the time. It's like, okay, am I just tired or is it my autoimmune disease?
Autoimmune disease, or the pregnancy, or the IVF, or any other million things, or just being a person in general.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then she's a military wife on top of it. Or that, yeah.
Or do you have, yeah.
And then she's a military wife on top of it. So then she's dealing with some of these things by herself. And she was dealing with it during COVID. So she was also by herself. Yeah. I mean, good Lord.
Well, and now having twins.
Yeah.
2 newborn twins with a military spouse. That's not easy.
No, it's not.
Sure.
Yeah, I actually, when I just left Hawaii, my neighbor across the street had just had twins. And I was like, girl, you are a trooper. You are amazing. Because she already has 2 girls and then had twins.
Oh my God.
I'm like, your life is going to be crazy, but I'm sure it's also probably crazy blessed,
Yeah. Somebody asked me like, oh, well, what if you have twins like the first time? I'm like, and then we're done. If I'm having twins, we're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, thank God none of this runs in our family.
No. And it actually usually doesn't unless it's
identical, right?
Yeah. No, identical doesn't have any sort of, I remember researching this because back in the day I was dating a guy that there was twins like all over his family. So I was like, oh my God, am I going to marry this guy? And I'm going to end up with twins. So I started researching, and identical twins, there is anything genealogical about it. Like they just happen. And fraternal twins, it comes from the female side if you hypoovulate. So if you release more than 1 egg at a time.
Oh. Yeah, and I heard that it's actually twins are on the rise now.
That doesn't surprise me because I do feel like I'm seeing more, which is cool. I mean,
It's something with like hormones. Like I'm guessing people intake more hormones, our hormone levels are. I don't remember
maybe.
why. I remember seeing the article. I just don't remember. I just remember saying, "Huh, I'm not having twins."
No,
Like
me
I
either.
refuse. I won't let my body have twins. Okay,
Yeah, me either.
not allowed.
If anybody knows why the twins are on the rise, let us know because we would love to know.
Yeah, for sure. What would you guys would have done? I can't even talk. Would you and Kyle have done IVF if you wouldn't have been able to have Jackson? I'm just curious.
I honestly don't know. No, honestly, I probably wouldn't have because we've already talked about adopting anyway. I don't know if at this point in our life it's going to happen because Jackson's almost 10 now, and I mean it's not totally out of the box, but it's a little farther away. And since we'd already talked about adopting anyway, I honestly probably would have just adopted if I couldn't get pregnant because there's so many babies out there that need families.
Yeah, me and Tom talked about it because of the miscarriage. Because we're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, if you carried once, like, who knows,
You're right.
And like our family doesn't have a great track record with fertility necessarily. Like if you look some
Yeah.
of our aunts who never were able to have kids.
It seems our
Um,
family is either one side or the other. They're either really fertile or they're not.
Yeah. And that's why I'm like, it's not out of the question. And
Yeah.
he's like,
No.
well, would we do IVF or anything like that? And I said, no, this is it. If we have a kid, we have a kid. And if we don't, we don't. And we can maybe look into adopting, but that could
Yeah.
be very expensive. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's probably going to be a no.
Yeah. I mean, you can foster to adopt, which takes the expense out of it, but it is riskier because you could have a kid for a year and then lose them, but
Then,
you aren't
yes,
spending $50,000 or $30,000, whatever it
on
is.
adopting.
Yeah, on adopting. So
Yeah.
there are
Well,
options.
and I do believe Illinois is a state where if they can find from our previous podcast episode, actually, your friend who lives in, was it Southern Illinois? I can't
Yes,
remember
Melissa.
where
Yes.
it, yeah, where it's a state that if there are family members, they're even more likely to be taken away because they want everybody with family.
I
Like
think
they don't care if it's a shittier situation. They prefer for you to be with your family members.
I think Illinois actually was the one that was more flexible. I think it was me talking about Hawaii because Hawaii is like that. Like a second aunt could pop up
Oh,
out of the woodwork and they're going to give it to that person, which is why we didn't adopt while we were in Hawaii because it is really, really hard there.
okay. Then I'm just confusing it.
I'm
My
pretty
bad.
sure Illinois is more flexible, but I could be wrong. They both could be like that. And if you guys want to know, go back and listen to our episode with Melissa. Her episode is amazing in general, anyway, because she takes a deep dive and talks about losing her son, which is not easy to talk about. But she also talks about working in the social work field, as she's been doing that for many, many years. And she has a lot of great insight on that.
Yeah, for real. So, anything else to add, Rihanna?
I don't think so. I think we covered the main things. The big thing was that she definitely didn't take anything lying down. She was ready to advocate for herself. So be like Christina.
As you should. Yeah, as everybody should, because our medical system's already fucked up. But we talk about that all the time, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like because there's a lot of medical issues that we've ended up talking and discussing with other people.
we've talked about a lot of different ones and a lot of not known ones.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is how to deal when shit gets real, guys. Join us now every Wednesday. We hope you have enjoyed it and check us out, like, follow, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.